I am Erin Fishel. I actually found LadyBoss December 31st. My husband was on a 24-hour shift. He's a paramedic, and I'd been through a lot at that point, and I saw Kaelin jumping in a cornfield, which I've never seen that video. Again, I've never been able to find it to share it because that, for some reason, was my immeasurable moment that clicked. And the ball dropped. I FaceTimed with my husband, which is normal. We're both been in healthcare for a long time and EMS, and so holidays aren't normal for us. And I said I loved him, and I love him, but I said I loved him, and I just still didn't feel full. I didn't feel whole. And I went to go to Facebook after, I want to say it was like 12:01 or 2, after I'd hung up. I actually screenshot him, and I went back to that video on Facebook and watched it again, and I thought, yeah, no. I've never tried any diet. I've always been real skinny, but at that point in my life, I was a hot mess, and I needed help. I chose to, without asking him, sign up for the 7-day trial. And when I put my card number in, I was like, I didn't even talk to him about this, and I'm fearfully jumping into this feet first with no regard for anything but to make a change. And when I did that, it was empowering and overwhelming all at the same time. I was in the midst of postpartum depression and grieving the loss of a child. And it scared, I don't know what, but it scared the hell out of me. But it was something that I had to do.
So leading into that, tell me a little bit what life was like before you found LadyBoss, before you saw the video.
Growing up, I had a great childhood. It was a hard childhood. My dad passed away when I was 6. I dealt with death very early. Working in healthcare and EMS, I have a better relationship with death than some people do because I'm so used to it from such a young age. Fast forward to December 23rd, 2014, I was 6 days from my due date, and I was hit in a car wreck at 65 miles an hour, pregnant with my first child. It caused a reverse curvature of my C-spine. It caused pinched nerves. It took months of physical therapy to be able to stand up straight, and my body healed incorrectly from pregnancy and the car wreck. The impact, we thought I broke my hip. Thankfully, I wasn't as hurt as I could have been. I wasn't as hurt as patients that I've helped before. But it caused a lot of issues, and at 28 years old, I was told I would probably never be the same again. About a year and a half later, we decided to have more children, and I got pregnant with our second child, and about, I want to say I was 10 weeks, somewhere between 9 and 10 weeks, I lost that child. And that threw me. It was a very painful miscarriage, and I like to be very open about it because there's so much these days that is taboo, and I don't feel like that should be. I was lost. I didn't have the answers. Nobody told me what to do or what to expect. And I went into a really, really nasty depression and postpartum depression and grieving the loss of a child that I never got to see or hold or even hear the heartbeat for. But I was still that child's mom, and so it still hurt. And I realized that I'd had postpartum before, but nobody had ever caught it because I felt that I knew this feeling before. I went from about 135 pounds to 187 pounds. The day that he was born and died, He was September 9th, 2016. I became a LadyBoss January 1st, 2017 at like 12:02 or something in the morning. And I had gone up to 187 pounds in that short span of time because I had given up. I had lost hope and I didn't care anymore. I was just surviving as a mom, a brand new mom who was scared and physically in pain, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually in pain. And I wanted to change, but I didn't know how because I'd never, growing up, my mom's not a lady boss, but she's a lady boss. Let's just put it that way. She did an amazing job at raising my sisters and I without another parent. And I was never tied to the scale. I've always been very confident. I have a loud personality. And I didn't know those things were a problem, which is when I realized I didn't want to be secretive about my weight gain and about my postpartum depression. And I chose to make that change because I didn't know what to do because I'd never felt that before. I'd never not loved myself. I'd never not looked in the mirror and not felt confident. I'd never been so in angst with those types of things in my life, and I didn't know how to handle it. And that's when I became a lady boss because I needed that help and that push.
So tell me a little bit more about like that breakthrough moment that you turned around and made that choice to just go all in and become the lady boss that you are.
I became a lady boss, and it was kind of just fake it till you make it at first. I thought about all the trainer. I read all the emails. I looked at all the things, like literally all at once. And I was like, okay, give me the next email. And I saw that, and I told my husband when he got home from that 48-hour shift, I was like, look, this is what I did. This is what we're doing. I don't know, but I'm going to make a change. I don't even know if it's going to work. And he was very supportive of it. I started my 7 days with food and any exercises that I could because I jumped in full first with my heart, but I knew deep down that it was gonna take one step at a time. Literally one day of putting my shoes on at a time. So I wasn't wanting to overcommit myself because I didn't want to fail. I'm very competitive. And I'm actually good at winning and I'm good at failing, but I knew that if I didn't do it correctly, this was one fail that I wouldn't be good at. And that scared me. So I didn't full headstrong I worked on the food for that first 7-day trial. And then I saw it as any exercise, anything that I could do was a benefit. It was extra credit. Sports have always been something in my life. Education, I really wasn't good at, but sports were good. So I was like, I got the working out part. I need an education on my food and a lesson on this and how to do this. And that's where I focused. From there, I started paying for my trial, or I started paying for my monthly. And I did that for a couple months, and Kaelin bouncing around, doing, doing. Numerous times I watched people become lifers, and I finally was like, I'm doing this. I don't even remember how much it was the time that I became a lifer. I think it's more now, but I took that step to become a lifer because I thought to myself, even if I don't get 100% to where I want, I will always have this in my back pocket. And I need this tape measure in my toolbox because I can measure where I'm going, where I'm at. I can utilize it at any time. And then I found out I was pregnant with my third child, my daughter Mabry, who's my little lady boss, and she is a diva monster. And I went through my entire pregnancy as a lady boss. There were not times I was perfect. I was still working on this. There were times where I didn't feel like I could do it. 6 months into my pregnancy, we moved from Texas to Oklahoma. My husband had gone from just a paramedic that was on the streets to now the director of an EMS service. And I moved to a new area, an area that I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any friends. And I literally just poured myself into LadyBoss because that was my people. That was my tribe. As a mom, you know, they always say it takes a village. It doesn't just take a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise and culture a LadyBoss. And that LadyBoss community is that village that was there for me. That was there when we moved into an apartment, or a duplex, that was full of bed bugs, and the landlord didn't tell us. 6 months pregnant with a child and my husband and a new job and a new state. And the day we moved into that bed bug apartment, Leanne Book, she's amazing, had mailed me. She asked me before we left what our new address would be, and she mailed me a greeting card, a thank you card. I don't know what it was. It was blank inside, but that kind of, and it said something about you're so strong and you're an inspiration. And, you know, I still have that card. And it literally got there on the day we were moving in. The mail lady delivered it to me by hand. And there was a necklace in it with a kettlebell, a 25-pound plate, and a little key tag that said strong. And like, I had literally 10 minutes before found out that we had bed bugs in this house, and I was like sitting on this cast iron bench that we have, reading this hot as heck in the middle of June, 6 months pregnant, bawling my eyes out in a new state. I don't know anybody. All of my husband's employees had showed up to help us move because I was so pregnant, like so pregnant, in front of all these people that I had no idea who they were. And I needed that. And that's what LadyBoss is. It might not be Leanne. It might be some other LadyBoss. That point is for each of us, and we all get to that. And we had to move again. And then we had to move again. We ended up buying a house. After my daughter was born, she was born early. She was born septic. And I packed LadyBoss clothes to wear at the hospital, not knowing I would be there for almost 2 weeks. She was born septic with a subdural hematoma, a really high fever, a really high heart rate. She wasn't breathing, and we had a phenomenal care team, and she spent 13 days in the NICU. And I spent 13 days in the hospital with her, nursing her. Every hour and a half to 2 hours. Like I said, she's a diva monster, so the NICU nurses actually nicknamed her Diva. And I remember at one point looking, while I was scrubbing into the NICU, washing my hands with my LadyBoss jacket pulled all the way up to here, and I could see the water just rolling off of it, and thinking, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I don't know anybody. My husband was at home taking care of this new EMS service with my 3-year-old. I hadn't seen them in days. I had a very painful labor, and then to not even be able to hold or feed or anything of my child until almost 2 days later. I was just watching the water, and I remember seeing the LadyBoss on my chest, and that was my badge. That was my, it's okay, you can handle this, because there's literally millions of women praying for you in that group, and then externally family, friends that weren't there with me, but I had my LadyBosses on my chest, and it was so cold in that NICU, and I wore that jacket every day, and everyone asked me about it, and I wore my LadyBoss tank tops, and because I was only planning on being there 2 days, I had to wash them every day in the Ronald McDonald house. And I remember telling one of the nurses at one point, it is so humbling and so honored honoring to know that you literally can only depend on those people who are praying for you and who have your back, and just trusting that it'll be okay, and trusting God that all will work out, and just holding on to that embroidery on my LadyBoss jacket, going, whew, okay, I can do this. Even though I might not have believed it at that moment, I could do it because of my LadyBosses.
So you've gone through a lot, and I know a lot of other moms and other women out there can relate to the things that you've experienced. What would you tell those women that are on the fence about LadyBoss and that have experienced those things? You know, what can you share with them about how to find that same sense of belonging and community and support through LadyBoss?
First, I'd tell them to do it. You know, we're here at LadyBoss Live, and Kaelin said, just make it happen. Just do it. Just do it. Don't waste time thinking about it all day. Just do it. And then after that, figure out the rest of it later. Because of being in the NICU, I was physically unable to go to LadyBoss Live last year. And I didn't think I was going to be able to go this year. I made it happen. I just jumped. I didn't know how I was going to get here or where I was going to stay. I planned on sleeping in my car. I didn't know all the details, but I just jumped. And oddly enough, last year, Sophia went, and I got to FaceTime with Kaelin, with my little bitty girl who had just gotten home out of the NICU. And that little tiny LadyBoss got to sit there and meet Kaelin in the first 2-3 weeks of her life. And this year, Sophia is at home with her daughter, and Sophia was able to make it happen so that I could be here this year. And I almost didn't get to make it still because there was a mess up with my paycheck. And I made it happen. I don't honestly know how, but I made it happen. After the making it happen and the initial jump of just getting here, I would say, believe in yourself. Believe in yourself, trust the process, and don't take no for an answer. As a LadyBoss and as a woman. As a mom, I would say as a mom, know that you're not alone in this. Know that you're not the only one dealing with postpartum depression. Know that you're not the only one who's dealt with miscarriage. And take solace in the fact that you've got more than just LadyBoss sisters now. Because you've jumped. You've already jumped. And if you haven't, find someone who will be that force, whether it's just the smallest little tap or like a freaking battering ram. Go do it. Whatever that is, find that person. But now talking as a LadyBoss, you know, that person's a LadyBoss now. Immerse yourself. Take solace in the fact that you've got literally thousands of sisters now. Whether you're an only child or you came from a family of 3 or you didn't have any sisters, it was all brothers, or 17. You got thousands of them. I think taking comfort in knowing that we're not alone. You know, we live in a society today that is so focused on isolation. Not necessarily solitary isolation, but me, I, me, myself, and I. Know that we're still not alone. You know, those connections are there. And I'm getting to meet everybody this year that I've known for almost 2 years. And it's like I've known them my entire life. Know that you will make those connections and know that there is someone, even if it's just one lady boss, there is someone in that group that is your person. And even if you don't find that person for you, you might be that somebody for somebody else. And I think that would be the biggest takeaway as a lady boss. For a new lady boss, I think that's what I would want to tell a lady boss.
That's really cool. The sisterhood is amazing.
Yeah. Like, I went to a community college, and I didn't get to do all the four-year college stuff. I just couldn't afford it. I got my sorority girls. We're like, this is better than a sorority. This is like best friends, and we don't wear pink on Wednesdays. We wear pink every day. Like, it sounds silly, but it's true. I wear pink every single day.